Welcome to the Squat Plug, episode 40. On today's episode, we are joined by Sean Koch from Midland University. He's from Liechtenstein and competed in the IPF out of Switzerland up until he was Article 14 for competing at a USAPL meet not too long ago. He is currently in court with the IPF over Article 14. And he is here today to tell us a story, tell us exactly what took place and whatnot, and what we expect or anticipate to happen in the future in regards to Article 14 and all that stuff that ties into it. Sean, welcome.
Hello, what's up, guys?
So, Sean, you're a 140 plus kg lifter. You just competed at Collegiate Nats. How did that go?
I actually had a shitty meet. I went 5 out of 9. Still won though, but it was kind of ass. I don't know. That whole peaking was kind of fucked up.
So what happened with the peak? What took place? Stress, something like that?
I had a psoriatic injury last September, and I don't know, I did my third squat and I just felt it and couldn't bench for shit, couldn't deadlift, yeah.
Yeah, no, that
You still won the meet though, huh?
I still won, yeah. I think I won by 110 kgs, actually.
It's a force to be reckoned with. Damn, bro.
And you got your third squat?
No, I did 5 out of...
So you won on your second attempt.
Yeah. I only got 2 squats, my bench opener, and second deadlift.
Wow. So what'd you
390.
390, and what'd you bench?
I hope to bench close to 260. I opened up with 237.5, and then failed my seconds because of my back.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then what'd you deadlift?
355.
Okay.
Damn.
That's a hefty total right there.
That's a big deal.
It's all right. More to come.
I do okay. Now,
So-
nope. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're very glad to have you on the show here. You know, I've heard minor things, I guess, about your story, but I haven't really heard the full story, in detail from the man himself. So, we're excited to have you kind of just divulge what you can to us today.
Yeah,
So I
thanks
think
for having me.
A pleasure. Welcome aboard again.
Let the man speak, Eli.
Sorry. So let's start at the beginning. I think our audience wants to know what the story is and whatnot. There's a whole lot taking place here, and it can be confusing to some people. We're looking at a couple court cases. We're looking at a whole bunch of things taking place over here. Many different countries being involved in the mix and whatnot. And just Article 14, I want to say it's its unfair nature as well. Before competing, was it a USAPL Collegiates that got you Article 14?
Yes, exactly.
So Collegiates last year, Sean competed and got Article 14. Before that, you were an IPF lifter, correct?
Yeah, so I was an IPF lifter for 3 years, I think. Went to 2 worlds. Then I came over here for Midland, I guess. And I actually went to junior worlds while I was already registered as a USAPL lifter. So there was no problem with that. I also did in the past that I did untested meets in between IPF meets, and there was no problem at all. So I think it's mainly if you compete in USAPL, you get Article 14. They don't really care about untested and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But yeah, I was IPF all the way.
Because they just have their own little beef with their own personal beef with the
Yeah.
USAPL.
Yeah, so long as you don't compete in an actual tested fed, the IPF is okay with it. Once you go compete in an actual tested fed, that's when they have a problem. This drug tested organization has a problem if you compete in a drug tested fed. That is so ridiculous, bro. Look at the bias here.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's not just powerlifting. If you do tournaments soccer tournaments who are not under WADA restriction, you could get banned too. If you do a little soccer game on a Sunday with your friends and it's not WADA supervised, you get banned.
That is insane.
You post a video of it on your Instagram, then the next day you get the email from the IPF.
Basically. Now, actually, I did Clash of Titans in 2023, and I was the only natural guy there. I was sitting there with my oat cake and an energy drink.
Yeah, ABS runs some crazy meets out there, and they have some very big dudes and untested out there.
Yeah.
And you're out there going toe to toe against some of the biggest dudes in the the scene. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I actually compete there again in August.
Awesome.
Abs Pro, yeah.
Copy. Who are you going up against?
So Dave Richardson is injured. I have no idea who's like coming. But it's a darts meet, like Wilkes, I think. So I just do it for the total. I don't give a fuck, actually.
So you have a work cut out for you. So you have your work cut out for you. Should be pretty good meet, I think.
Yeah.
So back to the topic here. So you're competing at Junior Worlds and that kind of stuff. You come over to the U.S. What made you go to Midland University, if I may ask?
So that's a little hard to answer. It's like basically I want to study sports, and in Europe to study sports you have to do like an entry test where you have to like run, I don't know, a mile in a certain time and stuff like that, and do like gymnastics, stuff, like very athletic stuff to get into the universities. And like with my body weights and my body composition, there's like no chance I'm like passing that test. And so I looked like overseas what it takes to study sports here. And there's like actually no entry tests. You don't have to be athletic. You can be a fat fuck. Um, and the problem with the US is like the schools are like super expensive. And I just hit up a few schools and Midland offered me like a full ride. And I was like, yeah, I'm in, I guess.
Interesting.
And it's also like the combination between school and sporting is like super nice. I don't really have to worry about like getting training time, stuff like that.
So it's like it's like a focus for you. So you, like basically powerlifting is the emphasis of your time at Midland.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so you're from Liechtenstein, you compete through Switzerland, and now you find yourself living in America because you know educational opportunities and whatnot. So you compete at collegiates. You did pretty well at collegiates, correct?
Yeah, I won and broke some American records, I guess. And the goal was to like do worlds in Lithuania in the summer. And I didn't have to like qualify for it because I already had the total from last year and Swiss Federation just put me on the nomination list. And I think like 4 weeks out, I was like already like in prep, everything. I already trained a few weeks for it. And like I think 4 or 5 weeks out, they like sent the Swiss Federation email to like remove me with a screenshot of my open powerlifting.
So there goes Switzerland's neutrality, I guess.
Yeah, and I was like super furious about that because I already put in work for it, and I had to like the goal to qualify for World Games. I would have qualified if I could have started. So the whole thing like took turn. I was like texting with the Swiss Federation president, and I sent him like this website that summarized like these competition laws from the EU because they're like are very similar cases with like the Ice Skating Federation and the FIFA, I think, with like a monopoly rules, and there are already court rulings for that. So I sent him that, and he's like, "Oh damn, I didn't know about this." And they sent like a big ass email back to the IPF saying basically, under no circumstances we're gonna remove him from the nomination list because it's gonna be against the law and against his right of education and stuff like that. And it like went back and forth all the time. And then I sent the official letter to the IPF, to Gaston and Robert Keller, basically saying like giving them the EU president's cases. And also, like, if you still remove me and refuse me to compete at the Worlds, I'm gonna like sue the shit out of you. That's what the letter was. And I think I had to wait for like a week to get a response. I actually emailed them twice to remind them to respond to me. They're like super bad with responses. I heard that from a lot of other people too who had like similar questions. They like never respond to anything.
That seems to be the running theme. Working through Korea and Vietnam, whatnot, we see that happens over and over and over again. Where basically just like it's neglect on their end, not responding to people, poor communication and very confused communication. So to set the record straight over here, your Article 14, but it's not even through your affiliate nation. Switzerland, in fact, goes to bat for you and says that this is illegal, which it is illegal, in fact, you know, and there's precedent for this in court and whatnot, and says if you do this, you could be sued. And yet the IPF still continues to Article 14 you. Do you know who it was who had actually sent the email to you? Who had addressed it to you?
I think it was Robert Keller. I'm not too sure. Either Gaston or Robert Keller. After like back and forth with the Swiss Federation, it was like multiple emails, and they really pressed the Swiss Federation to remove me because they didn't want to remove me, because that would have been like a court case against the IPF itself and not against the Swiss Federation. They want to like do that the Swiss Federation does it, so I cannot sue the global federation. And it was like bad. They sent like bad emails saying that like basically you're part of us and you have to like obey what we say and stuff like that. It like went like very direct, and
Interesting.
in the end they sent a letter with a official statement to the Swiss Federation and removed the IPF removed me itself.
Interesting. So has there been any fallout for the actual Swiss Federation itself? Any penalties?
No.
Who's the sorry, go ahead.
Who's the president or what?
Yes, if I may ask, who leads the Swiss Federation?
So it's my former coach actually, Patrick Yecki. He did a phenomenal job. I think he like stood the ground for what's right, and they really pressed him. They also, I think they said they will penalize the Swiss Federation, but never did. I'm not too sure.
Interesting.
I haven't looked at the emails.
Well, kudos to Patrick. I love to see it. You know, when it comes down to somebody actually like who wants to do the right thing, despite having like a federation like the IPF coming out and whatnot. Speaks volumes about his character. Legitimately, though, when people look at the actual cases over here, you had Super League out in Europe and whatnot, who was being challenged by the Champions League, if memory serves correctly, and the Champions League was saying that they cannot have their athletes competing in Super League and that kind of stuff. Super League ultimately ended up dissolving, but when the court case was finally rendered, when the findings finally came out in the end, the court, the EU court, found for Super League. And they found that what FIFA was doing with the Champions League, that kind of stuff, if memory serves correctly, what FIFA was doing, was indeed monopolistic and it was illegal. When it comes down to the ice skating and whatnot, the same thing was also found. These are monopolistic measures. You cannot prevent athletes from competing where they want to compete. So Article 14, by nature, does exactly that. And it is monopolistic. It is against the law, factually. It's not just like conjecture, whatever. So what they're doing right now just basically needs to be put into. What better way to do so than through courts? So that brings us to the next topic here. You've had basically two runs when it comes to court. You had the first run, and it ended up being, I guess, I want to say maybe not the right direction, and now currently on the second one. Talk to us about what happened the first time around. So you're suspended. The Swiss government is telling, the Swiss affiliate is telling you that you should sue. You start the lawsuit process. What happens? Who do you reach out to? What actually unfolded?
So basically, what happened, first of all, shout out to Jay Ferrand. He motivated me to, I had like everything planned out with like releasing the video, the GoFundMe and stuff, because I knew I cannot afford it myself. I wasn't too sure if I should do it. And I was on the phone with him and he said like, dude, I have your back, fuck it, let's just post it, And I was like actually in my car driving, I posted it and it went like super viral. I think it's like close to 300k views and a lot of money came in and I was like super confident and like, okay, I can really do this. I just want to do it the right way and don't fuck it up. And it was like super hard to first find a lawyer who wanted to take it on. Second, like I had never sued anybody in my life before. It was like hard to figure out where, how to sue. And I talked to multiple lawyers. I had to actually change my lawyer because the first strategy was to go through the IPF courts and then to the CAS, the International Sport Arbitrary Court in Switzerland. But that would have been like super expensive, like 10k per court, and the IPF has like two internal courts where you can appeal decisions.
I've seen that court in action, by the way. While speaking to Dan Kim, we got a chance to see just how little they do. Like issue after issue would be sent into arbitration for that internal court, and nothing would happen. There would be no response, no feedback, and nothing of the nature. It's like a black hole where like problems just go to die. So you reach out to that or to that court.
No, I didn't reach out. I just discussed it with a lawyer, and we both came to the agreement that if we go there, the first two court rulings is gonna be like. There's no point in doing these two courts in the IPF. And then he told me another way would be to go to the European Court of Justice where these precedent cases are. And for that I had to change lawyers and change location where I'm gonna sue. I never had like the first run. This is actually the first run in my court case. The first discussions I just had with like multiple lawyers on where to do it correctly. And so I now have a lawyer in Luxembourg because there's where the IPF is located, and we're suing them in civil court because you have to do that to either get like a civil court ruling, or it will get passed on to the European Court of Justice. And for that, you have to be in a EU country. It's like super complicated. And it also played in my cards that like they violated my right of education by the Luxembourg constitution. So that was also like a pretty good choice. So I'm currently,
Interesting.
I put in the lawsuit like in November. No, that was earlier. Probably in August, something like that. And the court gave the IPF time to like respond to my lawsuit. And they just like kept asking for extensions on the time just to drive me out of money, basically. I think that's like their strategy. So they had time till the beginning of March. So it's like almost like 4 months or something like that, something crazy like that, because they kept extending the deadline. And now it's my turn again to respond to their case, I guess. And I have till the end of April, and then I think we should have a court ruling by the end of summer.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap. So this is actually advancing right now. Look at
Yeah,
you.
so it's going. I didn't post a lot of stuff about it because I want to keep it like kind of, I had to like look out what I'm putting out there, because I feel like if I talk shit about like the IPF, they're gonna use that against me. So I kept it pretty quiet. This is like the first time I probably talk about this. I have like a meeting with my lawyer next week to discuss like further actions and stuff like that. But it's going forward, and the only thing that's like can fuck me up is if I run out of money. I have like 17 grand collected. I already paid the biggest invoice in my life. I think it was 11,000 euros for like my lawsuit. Yeah.
So if you win here, well, two questions here. If you win here, do you stand to recoup any of those losses? Would you get them back?
The money?
Yeah.
If I win, yeah. The thing is, if I win, I just put in a random number as a, how you say that, like,
A penalty, like punitive damages?
yeah, like damages. And if I win money and I cover my costs, I don't know if I can pay it back because most of them are anonymous. But I would,
I personally, I wouldn't want the money back, like myself, because I also contribute to your campaign.
yeah,
I'm sure, like, I mean, you do whatever you want to do. I'm just making sure these people aren't damaging you financially. That's where I'm coming from over here. If you get a chance, I guess, to recoup it and basically, you know, like find yourself back, at, like, you know, you're a college student, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You know, it's like, you know, like you have, we're seeing the setup right now. The technical difficulties we had at the beginning of this episode kind of demonstrate, you know where your situation is currently right now. So I don't think anybody's discussing it for that reason. So that's the first question there. The second question I have over here is, well, the second issue is that if you find that there is indeed any problem with this episode itself that could affect your case, obviously you're going to run this by a lawyer first. You can discuss it with them, whatnot, and see what they have to say about this. See whether it's okay to even have this out there. But I guess we'll plow ahead carefully and whatnot and see what takes place here. We can talk about the observations. Maybe I can talk about the observations I've had with the IPF, and I have the receipts for them. You know, but we'll be careful going forward. So that takes place, and we're looking at summer essentially being the potential wrap-up date. What's on your mind? What's on your mind right now?
it's the only thing that's on my mind is the second lawyer invoice that's coming. And I only have, so basically what I did is the GoFundMe, I have a separate bank account where all that money came in, and I think I have 6.5 grand left, and I only paid the lawyer invoices with that. I probably like gonna record everything, like all the invoices and stuff like that, and release that after the lawsuit so people know that I didn't use the money for myself. I have 6.5k left, and I don't know how big the second invoice is gonna be, but it's probably gonna be around another 7 to 12 grand in as a thousand in euros. So yeah, I don't know. That's probably the thing that's on my mind right now, that I run out of money. Yeah.
So I'd say maybe, like, not maybe, but I think you're going to need another GoFundMe round. And you might need to also explain the situation to everybody out there. There's a whole bunch of people out there who will support your cause. I would also reach out to the other institutions, like I'm saying, like other companies, whatnot, like A7. I'd reach out to Hansu. I'd reach out to Inzer and these companies who have just been recently, slighted by the IPF. What the IPF did recently with this whole sleevegate situation, which people seem to be making out about, people being butthurt about not being able to wear thicker sleeves. When you have partnership agreements with people, and you basically approve certain equipments, like, to certain specs and designs, so on and so forth, and then pull the rug out from underneath these people, you can make these people quite upset. And from what I understand, there are some machinations behind the scenes to send the IPF to court over this. And I think you've made some allies in the process.
Yeah, but
This is a cause I think many people need, that the entire sport needs to rally behind. Article 14 destroys the sport. It is not good for the sport. So I'd say...
How can listeners donate?
So basically, I have a GoFundMe set up. It's like in my Instagram bio, like the first link, and it's like very easy. You can like donate there, and the money goes directly to me.
Okay, great. Yeah.
okay.
So for everybody listening, if you can donate $1, $5, $10, $20, I'm sure Sean could really use it, and he'd really appreciate it.
Yes, would make a difference. I saw
for sure.
the turn the last 2 times, whatnot. It was quite remarkable. And seeing all the names of powerlifting without showing up there, that was actually quite encouraging. To see people like from so many different worldviews and whatnot saying, hey, this is important, let's put some money behind this, was a good thing. Just the stuff they do is very unfair, I feel. Legit, it undermines the very nature of the sport itself. You want to have the lifters do what they want to do and be allowed to compete where they want to compete. You don't want to restrict people, I guess, to these shitty ass meets. I mean, looking at Powerlifting America's Nationals recently, it was in shambles. Like it was like a warehouse. They may as well have had cardboard on the floors and whatnot. The lighting was like all like the dank and whatnot. Look, it was like some Soviet era kind of stuff. The vibes were I want to say like some block building. Like Russian grandma sweeping the sidewalk and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's the impression that I had.
I don't really. It's not only because in powerlifting, but it's also another very important precedence cases for like all other sports too, like the ice skating and the FIFA stuff. It like adds to that. That's how I also view it. So it's not just powerlifting; it's like sports in general.
That's true. That's actually a very good point.
Very important.
So let's see what takes place with this and whatnot. This is I want to say it's a very important case. And I think it's unfortunately lost on most of the people out in the sport itself, who really don't have an understanding of Article 14 and just how greatly it undermines the sport and how much damage it causes to the sport itself. So I wish you good luck with this over here. I'm very curious to see what the outcome happens to be. Hearing the whole Luxembourg situation with inhibiting your education, I think that's going to be pretty damning as well. And that alone, I think, will find. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm hoping they find for you the very least in that. When it comes on to the other stuff, there is precedent, and it's not just out in Europe. You could also refer to U.S. cases, like the Franzo case, back in the 90s over here between I think it was Inzer and IPF. That also sets precedent. So This is illegal everywhere you go. It's not just it's not for petty reasons. This is basically because Article 14 does hold a sport back, and so it's important that people remember that you are indeed still in the fight, and the fight's going on. And you are indeed advancing the fight, and you have a couple of fronts that you're fighting on. It's not just Article 14; it's also the whole being inhibited from receiving an education situation, whatnot that Luxembourg is upholding. And I'd like for the audience out there to remember this and to provide more support behind you in the event that you need more support, which it sounds like you do. This is something very important over here, and you stand to do a whole lot of good for the sport with this court case.
Yeah, probably the easiest. I chose the hard way. Doing it in court. The easiest way would have just been finishing my years here at Midland and then go back to the IPF. But it was an opportunity to actually change something. And I don't know, my character and my personality couldn't let that slide, basically.
Well, I commend it. You're a man of character. It is important to stand up, I guess, against bullies like the IPF, to do the right thing. Just many people, they lack the backbone to do so, and they lack the support. I'm glad that you have both, and I hope you continue having both, I guess, as this proceeds. What are your plans after this? Say, I guess, like Article 14 gets removed. Say, the situation is resolved. What do you want to do?
I'm one more year here at Midlands, so I'm graduating May 2026. I hope to do my master's in Dublin. That's the plan. I don't know if I ever gonna compete in the IPF again. Just because everything that happened, I can see myself competing there again. If two people leave, Robert Keller and Gaston. Gaston already left or got kicked out, basically. So, but I always said, like, the past couple of months, I never gonna compete again as long as these two people are in there running the show. Now, half of them are gone, so only one left to go, and I think his position is also up for grab, right? If I understand that correctly.
Robert Keller has, from what I understand, has announced to the powers that be that he is no longer going to be running for the PLA presidency.
Yeah.
So it is up for grabs right now. I'm not sure who it's going to be. I thought for a while it's going to be Arian Kamisi, who does seem to have a more progressive stance when it comes down to the sport itself, is indeed anti-Article 14, but from what I understand from some sources, and we'll see whether or not they're right or wrong, that he no longer has interest in the role. When it comes to the actual IPF president now, Sigurdsson, from what I understand, he is just as much of a proponent of Article 14 as any of the other ones were. In fact, even more so. Norway, from what I understand, has a very pro-Article 14 stance. So we'll see what takes place there. I'm not sure what Robert Keller's future is going to be. I know right now he's the Secretary General of the IPF. Maybe he continues there. I'm of the mindset that the way he operates, that he may well make a run for the IPF presidency.
Okay.
But we'll see what takes place. It's just
the timing would be would make sense. So
it would be quite fortuitous. It's very convenient for Robert Keller.
Seriously.
So we'll see what happens there. So have you been back to Switzerland? Have you been back to Liechtenstein?
Yeah, I go back there like every summer and every winter break. So yeah, the flights are bad.
How long's the flight?
So the long flight is like between 10 and 12 hours, depends on which direction. And me stuck in there in economy. The people next to me hate me, and I always stand as long as possible before I board a plane. So I'm gonna be the last one who walks in there, and you can see on the faces
oh my
please
God,
not next to me.
Not me, not me.
Tears in their eyes.
You're like, trust me, guys, I get it.
Yeah, it's just. My thought is my whole life is around this powerlifting and how I can get better, and Dublin is just a call, just people there. I go there once a year at least because I have a lot of friends there, like Jay and stuff. The whole ABS powerlifting are good homies of mine, and I think Dublin is the right call for me to progress further.
I went to Ireland over the summer, and I tried to go to ABS, but I couldn't get in. And then I ended up having a conversation with the owner, and he was like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "I got you. Come back. Here's the code. The rest of the time that you're in Ireland, feel free to come back and train here." And I never got to go back, and I was so upset about that because the gym looked awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually slept in the gym in August. I went over.
Yeah, I went there in August.
Oh damn.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I went over for the Abs Pro just to watch it.
Okay.
Jay offered me to stay in the gym. It was probably the worst mistake ever because at 6 a.m. you just hear somebody deadlifting.
Oh, yeah, I bet, right? It's boom, boom, the plates are rattling. You're like, what? Yeah, I'm pissed I couldn't get back over there to train, but we were there for family stuff. It had nothing to do with powerlifting, so.
But yeah, so I think that about wraps it up. Sean, thank you so much for taking the time. Legit, it's important that you keep doing what you're doing, whatnot, and it's very important you've done what you've done so far. Legitimately, I'm very glad to hear that the case itself is advancing. I'd had the notion that perhaps it had been quagmired and stalled, how IPF does things and so on and so forth, and just how long court cases can be. You may find that things just basically, they withered away. But I'm glad to hear it's actually it's moving very well, and that it is indeed moving in your favor, it would seem.
Yeah, it moves as well as it can get with all the deadline extensions from the IPF. Yeah, it's so stupid. WADA doesn't even I heard that WADA had it on their website too, the whole Article 14 stuff, and they immediately removed it because somebody like sent them the precedence cases, and they said like, okay, we're out because we don't want to get and not involved in like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. It doesn't support that at all.
Did you get drug tested when you competed USAPL?
I get drug tested a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So
I got drug tested at every USAPL meet I ever did, and I got drug tested. I don't think I got drug tested outside of comp, but I was in the Swiss WADA testing pool, like at all times. I'm still in there. I have to put in whereabouts where I live so they can test me. I think I got like tested 4 or 5 times out of competition where they just came to my house. So the whole WADA points doesn't make sense. That's
the exact reason I ask.
Because for WADA, it's no problem what you do as long as you're in the WADA testing pool. I also have I asked the WADA official from the Swiss Federation, and they said like there should be like no problem with WADA at all.
From what I understand, WADA's sentiment is like basically they wants nothing to do with Article 14, but the likes of Robert Keller and Marianne and Sigurdsson and these other guys will keep putting WADA into the mix, and has nothing to do with Article 14 at all.
No.
Just the whole premise itself, you're competing ABS, they're not testing you, and then all of a sudden when you compete USAPL, I'm sorry, not testing, but they're not banning you, and I compete USAPL where they do test you and you get banned. It's so ridiculous.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. To be fair though, I think I got tested out of comp when I did the ABS Clash. I don't know if it was from the IPF or from the Swiss Federation, but I got tested before and after out of competition, like before the meet and after the meet, just to make sure I'm clean, I guess. But like the whole WADA, they keep bringing up WADA, and it's like, but WADA has nothing to do with that. Like they don't support that. They don't stand for that. It's stupid.
It's crazy. I mean, and again, you talk about the whole testing perspective. But you look at all these other affiliate nations and whatnot, and I know firsthand that there's some countries out there which have never done a test, period. Not out of meet test, not an at meet test, no testing, period. So for all intents and purposes, IPF is untested. If you look at just the vast majority of the countries which are extant with on the IPF, and the fact that they haven't done testing, it's like where's the drug tested perspective here? You hear some very crappy, I guess, excuses as well for local meat testing and how it doesn't stand the test and so on and so forth, and none of that pans out. Some episodes back we had an actual a toxicology PhD who sat down and talked about the topic with us and whatnot, and he disabused a shit ton of these fucking bullshit myths that these people putting out there. Local meat testing is indeed important. At meat testing is important. There are people still caught in these tests. Obviously, it's working.
The whole in meat testing, you have to be the biggest idiot ever to get popped in meat.
And it still happens.
It still happened. It happened to me. I got robbed for a world silver medal, and the guy who was burying me, I got bronze. Popped for steroids, and they sent me my medal I don't know, a year later.
That's so funny.
A year later, I got the silver medal instead of the bronze in.
When you said it happened to me, I was like, "Wait, what?"
You benefit from somebody popping positive, basically.
Yeah. He was from Iran. I don't know if you know him. It's called Mehdi or something like that.
Mehdi, yes.
Yeah, he's like a veteran too. He got popped, and now I ask myself how many years was he on roids? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of issues that go on in Iran. We have another podcast guest who's going to be on eventually. Amir, I'm not going to butcher his last name, but he competed at 2021 Worlds out in Norway, and the stuff that happened there was absolutely insane.
The T-shirt, Supreme Leader, with the Supreme Leader.
Who does that? And the kicker, the kicker is that it was I think the guy's name is Farid, who's the Asian IPF president, who was forcing him to actually do it. So this person is acting like the spear point of an oppressive regime at at a Western meet. Do this or else. And, it's like, what the hell is going on? And people still think the IPF is okay while all these things take place here. The USAPL has some skeletons in his closet. And what I keep telling people is they have skeletons. IPF has fucking demons. This shit is insane, bro. Like
the IPF
is
shit.
Threatening people's lives and lives.
Destroying their families.
The IPS is one big mass grave.
Yeah, I know.
One big mass grave.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised they got away with it as long as they have. Just the sheer level of incompetence, unfortunately, that I've seen. And this isn't coming from, I guess, like trying to attack them, but like actual objective observation here. When you see just how poorly they deliver on everything, like how much they don't care about the lifters. How for $600 a year or 600 euros a year, they're capable of giving carte blanche to the Vietnamese, like a IPF affiliate over there, who's doing everything in the wrong way possible. We had the Vietnamese USAPL affiliate over here, and they filled us in on everything. We had the receipts for everything. We had the communications and all that kind of stuff. We had just all kinds of insanity. And for 600 euros a year, IPF says, all right, fuck off and do whatever it is you want to do. We don't want to hear anything from anybody else. It just this defeats the nature of the sport. This does not provide a conducive and a safe environment for people to lift in, nor does it promote the spirit of the sport. So kudos to you. Legit, keep up the good fight. Fucking do everything you can and whatnot. Continue doing everything you can to set the record straight and to get rid of Article 14. It will make the sport better and will help out sports in general. Period.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Please donate to Sean's charity. Sean, what is your where can people reach out to you at?
I'd say Instagram.
What's your account?
It's Sean Koch _official.
And your GoFundMe is available on your Instagram account, correct?
Yeah, it's like in my bio. There's like links. And I also have a fundraiser's T-shirt that says "Fuck Article 14" with like 2 apiece.
Awesome. So you heard it here, folks. Reach out to Sean, sponsor the man, help the man out. Let's make the sport a better place. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much.